Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well today in this new year. So today I'm going to be showing you how I do my little mini stripes. I mean, they're mini because they're like 6 inch by 4, but you can do this on bigger paper or any size you want. I just cut up little sheets like this, and then sometimes I cut them for tags, or I'll use them for cards or whatever, but they're just great to have as little tidbits. So with me I have just assorted cheapo brushes from thin to thick. I have a couple round brushes, flat and fine. My brushes are in very poor shape. I have new ones too, but I haven't started using them yet. So anyway, I just buy the paint brushes in the craft bag at Michael's or at Walmart. I don't buy good brushes ever. I used to, but I don't because they're so cheap when you buy the craft pack that if you ruin them, you just throw them out and get another in a couple months. So that's what I use. If you want to buy a nice brush, that's great, and just take care of it. I forget to take it out of my water, so they get bent like these. And they're okay for doing things like this, but for when I'm doing fine detail work or something, or specific, neater kind of work, I need a good brush. So like I said, I'll just buy the cheap ones, and when I go through them, I get a new pack. But I have various different sizes here, from very small, very tiny, like this one, all the way up to this flat, wide. So you can use any brushes you want. And I'm using 140-pound watercolor paper, which is basically what I use all the time. I use one by Canson. And my watercolors, which I have sprayed. I'll spray again to get them wet and moist and ready to use. And I have a little palette here. You can use any palette you want. These are just I got these for $1 at Dollar Tree. So I just use these in case I want to mix colors, or if I want them to be much less saturated. You know, I'll put them in here and then I'll add water. And I also use this because for the inks that I use, which I'm not using yet, that'll be my next step, I put the inks in here because you can't put them on the paper because they absorb into the paper. So I use this for a couple drops of some of the inks I'll use. And that's why I have the palette. I don't really use a palette for watercolor like most people. I just use my watercolor right out of the tray because I don't really, except for something like this, I don't really use it watered down. I use it saturated color. I use it like saturated without watering it down. So anyway, all right, so we are just going to do, and I have my water over here. My water looks a little dirty, but it's fine. You can start with fresh water, which I would say that you should, but I don't mind because for something like this, the color of the water doesn't really matter because I'm blending and doing little things that doesn't make it matter as much if I have a particular color. So I'll spray a little bit of water on my paper. Just a little, not too much, two or three squirts. Dab some of it off. And I'll just start with one of my favorite colors usually, pink or something. And I just start by making a line across, a thick and then a thin, and you'll already see how it's spreading. See that effect of how it's spreading from the water? So I love that. Then I may dip in a little water here and do another one. Your lines don't have to be perfect. I'll do a few little various stripes. Then I'll turn it over. And then without dipping my paint back into the brush, I'll use what's left on the brush and add some water to it. Okay, then I clean off my brush right here on my paper into some water, and then back on the paper. And then I'll change colors. And I'll start the next line right touching into the watered part of the pink, because then they start to blend together. Add a little water, and I'll just continue like that. Different sizes, Not always filling your brush up with color. Having some water. Now this is still wet down here, so I may go in. Not may, I will go in. And while it's still wet, I will add a different color into it. Into the pink. I'm using the orange now. And I'll do that up here too. And up here too. Then I may go back in and add a little water. So it starts to blend together. See how the colors start to meld together? And I'm realizing that I don't have my cloth to dab. I will be right back. I have to get my paper towels. Remember I said always keep a paper towel or a cloth next to you because you want to remove some of the color. Just for the nice effect that it has. That's how watercolor works. When you remove color, it leaves beautiful effects. Okay, now I clean my brush again. You see it's gotten all light up here, but I will go back in and add some more color. So it's all about overlapping layers. And it's quite easy. All you're doing is making lines or stripes, depending on how you press, how hard you press on the brush. See, I'm just using the tip of it now and getting some very thin lines, even though I didn't switch to the tiny brush. I'm just using the tip of this brush very lightly. Now you'll see that I have a lot left over on my brush, but it's not wasted because it's going on this paper, which I will use for other projects down the road. So always keep a nice piece of watercolor or mixed media paper. Some people use brown wrap. I like to use watercolor because it's what I use most. So if I have painted watercolor paper available, it's great for everything that I do. Okay, now I will add some blue. And it's still wet, so it's going to blend. Sometimes you get some muddy colors. Like if you have too many colors going at once when it's still wet, sometimes you might get a mucky, muddy-like color. But basically, I don't, because I'm not painting it in and rubbing it into the paper. I'm just doing a nice line straight across. And then here I'm going to just go down and make some little downward marks, mixing the pink and the blue. And I'm going to do that again here, and you'll see now it's turning into purple because there's blue and pink on my brush. And now I'm just going to make a few little dots across the page. Again, they're blending into the colors because the paper is still wet. And now I'm going to stop because now this has to dry. If I keep going, it will get muddy. So I'll clean my brush, put it in water, and I will be back shortly.